Hello, everybody. We're here in another episode of Linh Talks Tech. And we're here with the two co-founders of IT-Conductor, Nguyen and David Stavisski. Nguyen is the business side, customer-facing side, and David is sort of like the brilliant, guy behind the curtain who comes up with the technology. And we wanted to do this special episode, kind of bring David here into the limelight a little bit to, kind of shed some light on the technology and how the collaboration between Lynn and David triggered this innovative technology. Just one word I think is really interesting. We have two founders who come from two ex-communist countries who have come together in one of the most capitalist country in the world to form a technology company that is helping to revolutionize the IT department at large enterprises. So, Lynn, I don't know if you want to say anything, kind of get, kick off the questions over here, the topic.
Yeah. So, David, I finally dragged him out of the dark corner of development and R&D stuff. So give him a little bit of a breather. But right now we're in the middle of like a QA for a release this quarter, and David's like heads down, cracking the whip on the QA team and things like that. So I need to give him a little, limelight, shine the spotlight on the stars. I'm just the front man. I said, I got the looks and he got the brain, right? Let's make lots of money.
Hey, what's wrong with my looks?
Nothing. But when I met you, you still had hair. So I think IT-Conductor is kind of like the golden child that we feed it with lots of pain and sweat and tears. So anyway, so David and I met years ago, probably more than 20 years ago. The company is almost 11 years old, so we had a long time before we actually, said, hey, let's finally time to do the deed and create a company so we can make it official. It's kind of like you date for 10 years and you marry 10 years later, kind of like that. But anyway, so David is the brainchild. I'm just a front man. I'm the one with the looks, if you haven't figured out by now. But I'll let David introduce himself.
Don't sell yourself short. Come on. Yeah. So I'm coming from Soviet Union, born and bred there. Left when I was in my mid-20s, probably.
What city were you from? Moscow. Okay, because I was in St. Petersburg in 1982, back when it was called Leningrad.
Yeah. But I mean, there's really just one city in the Soviet Union, Russia. It's Moscow. Yeah, probably haters will hit me with disparagements of Petersburg, but whatever. So yeah, I graduated from college there, worked all over the world, lived in Israel actually, worked there, moved to the United States in the 90s, and worked for systems management companies for my whole life. Started BMC many years, BMC software.
Wow.
10 years, maybe more. Then I worked for Quest Software, and the last 10 years, Lynn and I we striking on our own. So it's IT-Conductor.
Yeah, actually, the name came from David, by the way. If you haven't realized, we talked earlier, and I think the name dropped almost like straight from his lips, like IT-Conductor. Oh, that's stuck. I never even had options.
Are you a classical music lover, David?
Yeah, I don't mind classical music.
He's the art guy.
But name IT-Conductor, actually, I didn't invent it. So there was one guy in the past that I collaborated with, and he came up with it. So I won't take credit.
But you popularized it. You turned it into a company name. So that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if that's the thing, right? If you had an idea, but you never did anything about it, nobody would know about it, and it would just go to the grave with you. So I think starting and doing, stepping forward every day to make something. No, I was told a story that David and I think it was in Seattle. We were up in Seattle. It was rainy Seattle, where we have that Sleepless in Seattle episode where we were on the engagement, and I think it was Sun Microsystem AT&T back then. But that's where we actually did a lot of the idealization. How do we solve this problem? And I think that was we were in a little messy engagement where everything was chaos and disorganized, thousands of servers. Nobody know what the hell they were doing. literally you could say, hey, let's just go over switch this guy off and see what it does, or who complains. Nobody complains. We can just decommission the server, right? That was really how messy things were. So yeah, so Dave and I had a lot of good time, concocting ideas and say, hey, we'll do something about this. But it was some time later. I think David. See, when I first met David, he was working for BMC. Kind of, we were in Houston somewhere, and I went over there for partner training. I think I told the story, right? How I became like the BMC most well-known reseller of their newly purchased Opti Systems
Yeah.
software. That so if you can't beat them, you just buy them. So that's what they did to the system. All right. But anyway, so soon after meeting David, I think we were kind of like, hey, let's do something together. We weren't 100% sure what we're gonna do together because like he was still working for BMC at the time, and I was doing most of the sales and delivery stuff, and I was always looking for help because I had a pretty nice business doing work for like Sun Microsystem in the SAP practice, deploying a lot of SAP stuff for large customers, and then branching out to a lot of other non-SAP things. So the AT&T deal was like a non-SAP thing. It was just an ITIL thing. So if you don't know, David, you can talk about your ITIL background, how that fit into IT-Conductor, maybe.
ITIL being, could you define ITIL again?
Yeah, it's a IT infrastructure library.
Okay.
So that's a kind of best practice that concocted over the years, mostly by Europeans, but it became a de facto standard. While at BMC, I was part of the solution architecture team at some point because I had different roles there. And I'm talking about early 2000s, right? So they decided let's pivot toward the best practices and do it formally and stuff like this. Actually, BMC led the movement, let's say, amongst the vendors of monitoring and management tools. So I was on the team that actually pioneered it at BMC. So when the early training and stuff like this gave us good idea what to do and how to approach, how to talk to customers. It's really kind of common language between the customers and the IT shops and the vendors. And finally, later on, working at Quest, I was driving them there because 10 years later, they say, oh my God, we cannot sell to customers. BMC is eating our lunch and stuff like this. So they did the same. So I was leading the educational kind of efforts to educate people and send them to courses and kind of consolidate the messaging around ITIL as well.
Is Quest software still around?
Yeah, I mean, they went through a bunch of acquisition, divestiture, acquisition, spin-off. I think they across the street from where I live.
I remember there used to be like their name everywhere. If you go into any shop with databases, they were talking about Quest software because they like provide a lot of the database monitoring management software. And then now you don't hear anything.
Yeah, they lost focus. Visionaries left. So the founder, Smith, was cashed out and started his own stuff, investment and blah blah blah. So it's inevitable. These companies they don't live long. They got acquired, they got diluted. Look at big names like Tivoli and CA. Now we don't hear about them.
Yeah.
They just dilute their offering even BMC. I mean, they have the product, right? And they build the community around it. They build the mind share, but then they decide that it's not good enough. So instead of gradually improving it, they decide to purchase another company that will replace it. So they come to IT shops and say, oh, we're replacing it. Of course, these people are not happy. And I don't blame them because they have to redo everything, re-educate, re-engineer. So many at this point decide, oh, screw that. We're going to choose something new and better and cheaper. And they find another company. So in my opinion, the companies who are persistent and consistent, they're winning in this business because it takes very long time to build at IT shop, to build the infrastructure, to build the knowledge and integration points with other tools and stuff like this. And then if you have to rip it off and do it all over again, that's a deal breaker. So the companies will continue and backward compatibility, gradual improvements, evolution versus revolution, those are winning in the long run.
Yeah. And so
that's what we're trying to do at IT-Conductor too. So.
Yeah. So I would love to hear about how you came up with your first technology. Tell us a little bit about, the mindset and then the technology innovation that you came up with and with your first product. And if you could walk us through that. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Lynn.
Mainly, I want to ask. See, David always had the platform, so that's from the beginning. It's not a product, right? We're not product company. We actually did build products for my consulting firm that I told you started doing, and David actually helped build a bunch of products there that we sold pretty successfully for the Microsoft community in the system monitoring, right? So those were products because they were very distinct products. The products, they do certain things, they plug in and they provide data to Microsoft System Center platform. But David always had the forethought to say, let's make something. I remember a conversation with David a long time ago. We say, if IT-Conductor actually succeeds, we build a platform that is basically is the infrastructure to create any app you want. So if you compare to something like Apple Store, and iTunes and whatever, and then people build the apps, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they use the framework, use the Apple developer guys who build it. And okay, so now there's thousands and thousands and thousands of apps. Well, the idea is same with IT-Conductor, but at an enterprise level, say, hey, we build the framework, the engine, all the communication. So everything is tightly created so that you can just build what we call now adapters. So I think David is the one that created that concept. So David, maybe you want to add to that.
Tell us about this, David.
Yeah, actually goes way back. So we're talking about late 90s, very early 2000s. So I was always involved in process automation at some level. And what I observed is that IT departments, because we were dealing with IT departments, were mostly business, right? Automating their business. And I'm one of the original developers of Control M job scheduling product. And I observed how it's been used. Many IT guys, folks that need to monitor, automate, and integrate their IT systems needed some kind of automation tool.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of thinking about that very long time, even offered my company to, start a new project to do that, IT process automation, blah, blah. Of course, they say, oh, no, it's unproven, as usual, nothing new. So that was the reason we started the company. So we start thinking about automating IT processes. So replacing people, in essence, with their knowledge, digitizing their knowledge, and putting it into the software.
Mm-hmm.
Now with AI, it's going even better, right? The obsolescence of the people, of the meatbags, as we are.
Speaking of that, it's interesting. Did you see what happened to Gartner stock recently, within the last couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Gartner, right? The research division completely disintegrated because people realized I don't need to pay so much for consulting firm or these research firm to come up with research about certain topic. I can just go query the LLM or and then they would generate for me comparisons, do all the research, put it in together, nice succinct report. So why do I need? So I think that's quite right. That if once you capture knowledge and deliver kind of like a process, wrapped around process, why do you need to spend so much time with the people?
Yeah, I mean, it's a technology how to do that, right? So before we didn't have AI, so it had to pretty much not hard code, but configure the workflows, the procedures and stuff like this, interview the people, blah, blah, blah. So now it becomes much easier. So we'll see where it goes. It's still not really fully mature. So process still going on. So that was kind of the pivot we took. So we had this, so I started building this platform. pretty much my spare time.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking about it. So we decided that we need a pivot somewhere, right? Find a way to sell it, because back in the early 2000s, nobody was buying the process of IT process automation. The world was not mature enough for us.
Same thing with the cloud and the SaaS model, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You were
So
ahead
we
of time.
pivoted towards monitoring and specifically SAP, because Lin had expertise in SAP. I had expertise with SAP integrating, doing the job scheduling and all kind of stuff. And we combine that expertise and start pitching. We reworked IT-Conductor to specifically support that goal. It's kind of application of the engine, but underlying engine that continue to evolve to do many things, and it takes a very long time to really fill all the holes in the offering in order to become useful.
Yes.
So that's a problem. So you have to invest a lot of time or money. And time is the same thing. It's interchangeable, right? So you either hire a lot of people, and then they couple together something that doesn't work, or much fewer people, because fewer brains, it's easier to coordinate and stuff like this. You build something more elegant and more scalable and more future-proof, but it takes longer time. So
yeah, I think that what happened is in order to have a platform versus a product, you have to build a lot of widgets, right? You have to build all the knobs. It's like you engineer, and I refer this to like my music stuff. Let's say you have like a 24 track mixer, right? You can't just start with a 24 track mixer. You have to start, what does each channel do? I need a knob for my adjustment of tone, right? A balance, my high frequency, low frequency. I want a mute button. So you have to build a lot of widgets, and you have no idea about the end product. But you know that if you build all the tools for this platform, then you would have every knob. And then just like Lego, right? Somebody can come along and say, I want to build this structure, and you have all the pieces. And if you have all the pieces in a Lego, then you can say, hey, you know what? You just put together what you think in your mind, what you like. And if you don't like it, you take this knob off. So over time, the platform, that's why I'm not kidding when I talk about David has like thousands of tools that can solve together a process, because these tools are like little widgets, little knobs. And if you put them in together, it's just like a sound engineer, do I want this effect first and then this effect? Do I want delay, reverb, and then chorus, echo, which in what order, right? So it's up to the human creative person when they have a problem to say, hey, I need to solve this using a digital process. Then you give them all the knobs and all the tools, and then they can put together, and we call that an adapter, and it solves it. So monitoring SAP, think about it. SAP has let's say 1,000 metrics per system. That's a lot, right? Nobody can really make sense of that many. So to get the information, and then to get not only those metrics, but get the logs and get the traces, and put them in together in some correlated time so that it can be made sense. If I give you like 1,000 data points without any context, meaning like some kind of timeline when things happen, it's very hard to make any sense of it. But to get to the point where we can analyze that and put it on a chart and do something about it, useful things about it, it takes building all the things like the charts, the widgets, the data coming in, the alerts. How do I store the alert? So all of this IT-Conductor, actually, David built from scratch, right? We didn't start with like a product. We actually started as a pure platform from the ground up, and every widget is created from a need, right? I need this widget. Okay, let's build that widget. Okay, what can I do with this widget? Plug it in here, plug it in there, and then so eventually it became something useful. And that's when you say, okay, and I can solve a customer problem. So
yeah,
I think in the early days, David and I remember, I think I told this story before, but he and I literally lugged a whole computer to a customer, a whole server rack. We said, hey, that's IT-Conductor in a box, right? Because at the time, it's not like AWS or something where you spin up a cloud instance. We literally like get engaged with a customer, say they have a problem, they need this. I need some performance a tool to help them troubleshoot and do testing, do measurement, do optimization. And so we pitched them like, hey, yeah, we have this tool, but right now to deliver it, we really have to ship you a server, go there, plug it in. And the customer is pretty straight. They said like, we don't want to do any work. This is the best customer. Okay? The customer, they come and they say, I have this problem. I don't want to do any work. I just want you to solve the problem. I don't want to train any people. I don't want to put in any time. Just solve the problem. And, then you can tell me how it works and things afterwards. So that's exactly how we sell it, right? We say, unlike any other model, you don't need a team. You don't train anything. You just say, here's the service. It starts, it plugs it in, and then we do everything. So then the customer just focus on telling us what the problem they want to solve, right? If it's performance, if there's automating something. And that's exactly it. We went to Chicago. I remember, like, we literally built the server, racked it, boxed it, sent it there, and went into the customer with a couple servers, slapped it on the desk and say, connect it to the network. And they did it, and we're up and running. So you think about that now, a lot of the model are kind of like that. I think some of them are like a pre-packaged, spin it up, and you have it in the cloud, right? That's kind of what we had back then.
You carried your own cloud with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was an appliance business, so-called. So back then, actually, it was pretty popular before the cloud. So companies would package the appliance, and we did this similar approach, right?
Yeah.
So they pre-configure. You don't need to do it. So Docker in the box, physical box.
Yeah.
Were these quad Pentium Pro machines or whatever?
Whatever it was, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But here's a funny thing, right? We actually charge the customer for the hardware, but they don't know what to do with it afterwards. So we basically literally, charge part of that as the cost of the engagement, and then we kept the server. And then we built some of our early system using those servers because we're like, what are you going to do? It's like, because remember they said they don't want to do anything. So that means that we build, we install, we use it, we deploy, we had the service, we deliver the solution, and then we kept the server. It's paid for. And that was some of our early hardware, huh, David?
Yeah, it's time and materials, right?
We did the same thing at IBM, actually. IBM, yes, IBM back in the early 2000s, even the 2008, 2009, 10, they were winning a lot of SAP large deals from other competitors like Sun or HP. And the funny thing was, again, we run into this issue of they don't want to spend any effort, but they want the system to run as best as it could, like fine tune, test it, and all of that. So what we did was essentially go to this engagement and said, look, you just add this line item. And because I was already in the consulting engagement with them, it was easy for them. Like, hey, every time they get into this engagement, it was a standard service they add to the line item. They say Lin will deliver blah blah blah, and Lin goes, okay, David and I will deliver IT-Conductor performance management service in a box, literally. So I may go on site and discuss it with the customer, what do they want to test and what they want to tune and what they want to migrate, all that. And David's back in the engineering headquarters. And the funny thing is, like, a lot of the problems that came up didn't exist, like in terms of a problem that we had before. We had like, okay, here's a platform. We need some customer problem to solve. As soon as I hit the ground at the customer side or a partner like IBM, there was just multitude of problems. I need this. And I remember like telling David, hey, I need this kind of monitor. I need this kind of chart so I can monitor and put one thing on top of the other. I can relate and correlate and zoom and get back in time. And you know what? I'd expect like maybe a week later I get something, and then next day he already showed me this is how it works already. So that was I think in the beginning I realized building these widgets and solving problem could be actually a lot of expedited process, unlike anything before. Like if you had a large company software like IBM or BMC, it might take 2 months, 3 months just to get the requirements.
Yeah.
Not alone a prototype, right? We had something overnight. That's kind of why I say, David, you're the champion. You got the brain. I get to give you the idea. Next thing you know, before I even like had a brainstorm session with him, he's already like showing me, hey, I got this thing for you.
Well, how did you build? I mean, like what language did you write it in the first place? Was this like?
Yeah, language is less important. It was Java. It is still Java. Language is less important. What's important is architecture and how you kind of architect the whole thing, make it future-proof. Solving a problem is not necessarily, and Lin and I, we argue a lot about it. So Lin wants a problem solved now. I want to solve it the way that I can easily solve it again in the future.
Yeah.
So, but it's a creative kind of discourse. So what we do, so we bounce ideas against each other. And so requirement comes, I'm kind of synthesizing it, thinking how to use the tools we already have with minimum impact, with maximum flexibility. So we build this environment. I mean, I don't call it a product. It's mostly a platform, right? That allows you to express almost anything. It's super expressive, as we call it.
Super expressive.
Yeah, and the UI comes as a result of it. That allows us to quickly put together the interfaces, and allow users to interact with the system.
Yeah.
With the platform. So yeah.
Actually, that's how we got patented by Uniqueness, Fernando. I think here's where the secret is. So in the beginning, when you build something, you might be referred by somebody as like, aren't you just like that other product or that one, that one, that one? So in order to get a patent actually issued, it's a long process. I would say anywhere between 3 to 7 years.
Oh my goodness.
Right? It's not like instant. So anybody can file an application, but to get through the whole process, you have to prove that you have solved an engineering or uniqueness on your approach that is something that is useful, right? So it doesn't infringe on some prior arts from somebody. And so one of the things when we got patented and the process started, maybe I think 2016, 17-ish, the novelty or the uniqueness is actually how the data model, and David says super flexible, is everything in IT-Conductor is represented by a single kind of unique data, one data model. The way we store can extend to anything. So if you think about it in the beginning, and I'm going to say kind of biology, right? Everything is a single cell, right? And then a single cell will eventually split and then multiple and then life forms, right? So you think about in that uniqueness, IT-Conductor is not like any other product that's built basically from a data model can extend to almost solve any type of problem that you expressively write down can be expressed in the data. So we don't need to go and rebuild a data model. We keep extending it to essentially match what the real world need is.
Okay, so I have a question. You said that you gave him an idea and the next day he already had a solution. Was that one of these widgets that went on the platform, or was it the actual platform itself? I mean, did you come up with the code and the architecture for that in one day?
Platform takes years to perfect.
Okay. And so, you were working on it before, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the seeds were planted in the late 90s. So conceptually, because you're dealing with existing apps, whatever, environments, platforms, and you see how inflexible they are. So I started to think about how can I make it flexible? Because I know from my experience over the many years, right, it always comes down to, oh, can you do that at some point? And if you have a rigid platform or a data schema or something, at some point you'll say, oh, I can't. So that was the idea. So there is no answer, I can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it took years. The concept is one thing, then you build the software to implement it. The idea, the architecture may be there, but then you need additional functionality. The widgets, so-called, that interact with actual systems, with actual people, present information a certain way, collect information from certain sources. So all of that is a thick layer around the platform that makes it useful. And that's what takes a lot of time, because just doing one thing is not enough. It's never enough, right? So you need to fulfill the promise of solving problems. And problems tend to pop up from different angles, and it's a whack-a-mole, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not flexible enough to do it in one place to solve a bunch of them that make it useful, I mean, you're relegated to very niche status.
When we filed the patent, actually, the patent office, I'm just give an example, like US Patent Office, they challenge, whatever pictorial engineering we put and say, hey, something similar over here. The difference actually is that a lot of products you see out on the market today, is built on somebody else's platform. So let's say a developer, right? He doesn't do anything. He adopts a platform. Like I mentioned before in the Apple Store, you want to develop an app, you have to use their construct. You have framework there, right? So a lot of the developers today are not used to building a platform from scratch. They're just building some add-on, some plugin on top of some other platform. So it's very limited on what they can deliver. So if you go up to against a big platform company, there's many platform companies, right? It's always come back to the framework. What is their framework? What is developer platform? What is the thing? And so IT-Conductor actually is a developer platform, right? You're developing on top of it, and you plug into it. You want to solve today, and maybe today there's thousands of startups out there building next AI application. Let's see, this application needs monitoring, right? Because it may be, I'm just giving an example. If you ask a couple LLM to give you answers, how do you compare which one is right using the right, which one's wrong, right? You have to compare. Well, let's say you have an application that does this, and it's a new application, but you need to monitor the output when you throw in your prompts, right? How do you monitor this? So let's say now you want IT-Conductor to monitor this app, right? So that's a new app. Doesn't exist before, and there's nothing that can do that. So we only need to provide the basics telemetry. So what do you want to know? What do you want to output? Integrate with it, and then we can build the adapter to monitor this thing. So to do this with any other thing is like really convoluted. If any developed platform is very rigid, it takes years to kind of like learn that. By the time you learn it, maybe it's superseded by some other platform. So it's very subjective to whoever is actually pitching the platform, obviously. But in IT-Conductor's world, because we want to say orchestration is the core, regardless of what technology is you want to solve, the logic is the same, right? I have this and this and this. I need to have dependency. So David actually is the master dependency. If you say, I need this, you know what all the dependencies are and how do you create dependencies so that the orchestrated workflow doesn't just sit there out there and has no dependency and it's sitting there not solving a real problem. It has to be depend on some user input and does something and then interact with a bunch of systems, all of that stuff. Like I could never think of all the complexity in the orchestration world, but it's really like 1,000 pieces. If you have 100-piece orchestra and every instrumentalist has an instrument that has at least say 6 string, 4 string, whatever it is, think about it, how many notes possible on each string, right? So one musician with an instrument, an infinite number of notes, combine that with 100 other musicians. Now you have what a chaotic IT will look like, right? So in order to orchestrate that, you have to have a method to link the dependencies and not have them go chaotic all at once, right? So that's kind of the concept behind really IT-Conductor to orchestrate, because it's like without that, I think that my most recent experience today, I give you this experience today. It's a customer call and they said that they have an outage. They plan to do patching. They want to patch the operating system. They're falling behind. So they patch their most critical business systems. And then we have a project to optimize. And we said, hey, we have a change that required optimization. Why don't we piggyback on your change window in order to get one outage and take care of two things, right? And they said, no, we can't do that because we don't have enough time. And then I start digging in and say, why don't you have enough time? You asked for 3 hours. There's not that many systems. Why don't you have time? And then I find out that they were doing everything manual. Okay, it's not orchestrated, it's not automated. They gotta manually patch every server. They gotta stop every app, right? Stop SAP database, and then they gotta patch, and then they gotta figure out this thing come up or not. If it come up, then they go do the next one. Now, this whole chain of things takes forever, and they're not using orchestration, and they're not patching ahead of time and just waiting for the window to reboot, and they do it in the wrong sequence. And I found out like, hey, you have a cluster. The cluster is supposed to give you ability to have minimum outage, because you can go patch on one and run the business on one. And when you're done with this one, you fell over and then you run it back here and you patch it and then you're done, right? Well, they weren't doing any of that, because why? They said, hey, we always told the old way, like you shut everything down and then you patch one at a time and then you bring everything up and hope everything come up. And then you continue on to the next. And so I figure out like, that's why it takes 3 hours and you can't fit in my simple 15-minute change. because you are not using orchestration. You're not using a well-rehearsed best practice on the sequence of things. So today, if you go out in the world, you ask something, most common IT things like, oh, how do I patch a Windows? There's a sequence of events. That's best practice, right? 90% people follow it because it works every time. If people don't follow this and automate that, and they're still doing manual things, this is what's wrong with IT. It's broken. So that's what, like, from an IT conductor standpoint, David thought about this process. What we call it, the process composer. David, what's the story behind process composer?
I mean, it's IT-Conductor, right? So he needs a composer for the music to sound. But yeah, it is and so we came up with a graphical. It was a long time ago when the web was not as developed as today. So today you see the proliferation of a graphical design tool and stuff like this. So we started early, actually. I'm talking about, I don't know, 2008, 2007. So we had our first graphical process, flowchart composer. So we can drag and drop and assemble the processes from the building blocks. And that was kind of, if not revolutionary, new and very improved. We decided to name it composer.
Today, when we get a new person come along for the customer, they say, how do we do this at this shop? That's what they get shown. They get shown the process. That's the graphical. It's a workflow. This is how we do things here, right? And that's kind of how the digital representation of what a run book or spreadsheet or, you know, a 50-page Word document with thousands and thousands of words is So every time we start with a new customer who wants to automate something, we always ask them, how do you do it today? Can you show me your run book? And then how do we translate this into a digital format in IT-Conductor through the orchestration engine? And that's really what transforms what once was like unimaginable complexity, like 100 steps. Hey, imagine this, okay? We had a call with a customer last week. It's a customer, a long-time customer for us. But they told us that they were doing system refresh the old-fashioned way. And you know what the old-fashioned way is? Manual. Manual, yeah. Like you have XYZ guy refresh ABC system, following manual steps and doing it manually. And now they realize it's taking too long. And we only have one guy or two guys scheduled for the weekend. And we have like 3 systems that needs to get refreshed, or 2 systems. Anyway, we can't scale human that way, right? We can't scale knowledge that way either. And funny enough is like we said, hey, you know, this, whatever you're doing today, we can digitize all that. We already done it for customers. And 70% at least of it is templatized, right? You don't need to start from scratch. So I think the world needs a lot of like automation. It's just that customers are not used to it and people are not used to it. So breaking that mold of thinking requires a platform that can be flexible. So we always think going back, like, I don't care if I got no customer, but let's build this thing first. I think we had this conversation this morning too in one of our daily call, like, hey, you know, customer keep asking for this and there must be a very common problem. Let's build ahead, even though we don't have any customers using it right now because we don't have it, but we know there's a need. So the very decisive thing, I think David and I, and David can correct me from day one, we're like, yeah, it's nice to have customers, but we need this. So we build it, right? And we say, oh, we build it, they will come, right? Because that's we all like, oh, we build it, will come. But we find out that that's why my job is like a lot of marketing now, because no, you build it, they may not come. But we still realize building it is important, because if you're working on a platform, it's not about product. Remember, we're not building product. So if everything that you build strengthens a platform, we would do it, even though there's no customer right there right now, right? Because we see the importance of. So that's the difference between a platform company versus a product company. A product would always like only build products that answer to customer need. A platform will build and strengthen the platform so that you're prepared for the future need.
So is there any plans to open this up to third-party developers?
We always had a plan. David can tell you about that plan.
Yeah, we always had the plan. The plan is good, but they need to come.
So Fernando, it's called marketplace, right? We had this idea of marketplace probably 10 years ago. So IT-Conductor, if you could come, if I tell you, Fernando, I have a very easy way for you to create an app that will automate something, right? Maybe your day-to-day, IT needs and whatever, you would do it. And because, yeah, if I'm a developer and I could think about a customer problem, I may be consulting, I can come and build an app on top of IT-Conductor and sell it on the marketplace, IT-Conductor marketplace. And if customer need that, they can use it, pay for it, and then IT-Conductor can deliver the service, but the app belongs to the person who developed it, right? But using our platform. So the marketplace idea has always been there. The other idea that I always talk about with IT-Conductor, if you have a marketplace, not only for the app, but for people expertise, right? So if we were number one on day one, we said out of necessity, we're going to be a remote company because we're just two guys. He's in Southern California. I'm in Northern California. We can't come to the office. It would make no point, right? So from day one, we said it's going to be a remote company. And as a remote company, we're going to have remote workers and we will have no physical space where we put servers, anything like that. So as day one, it was designed to be remote. So by the time we had it running in 2015, 2014 timeframe, COVID came around 2020, we were already remote for like over 5-6 years. Completely. So we didn't skip a beat, right? Other companies were trying to figure out how to work remote. We had already been on like maybe 3 different like remote working collaboration software by the time COVID came around because we tried everything in the early days. But what went back to marketplace is this: there's a huge amount of people around the world with expertise, experience, but they don't have, just because their geography location, they don't have access to customers. They may not even have a job. So the only job they could get was online to share their expertise and work and earn a decent income. So for us to democratize their expertise, they could come work on IT-Conductor platform, build app, share the experience, and then customer anywhere in the world can consume their services through IT-Conductor platform as a remote eyes, ear, hands, all of that stuff. So that idea is part of IT-Conductor infrastructure.
Yeah, I have an idea. Why don't you organize either a yearly or quarterly, maybe yearly, a hackathon? And since you say all over the world, it could be a virtual hackathon or it could be an in-person hackathon in the Silicon Valley, where you invite developers who work at large corporations with large IT departments to come, and in 3 days, they won't sleep or eat. Well, they'll eat pizza, but they won't sleep, and they'll just develop applications on the IT-Conductor platform.
That's a fine idea. That's a fine idea. Yeah. No, I think that would be awesome because we always think, hey, I think we're superior. We should build lots of apps, and we need eyes, hands, ears, expertise around the globe, anywhere virtual. Definitely can be done that way. And I think we can solve a lot of problems today that will not require to buy expensive products or anything like that. You can build apps that will do amazing things.
Yeah, don't forget about LLMs. So that whole thing might become obsolete already because what you do vibe code in 10 minutes, it probably can write the same thing for you.
Yeah,
but that would be amazing.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's very, very possible because we're not really. It's not really rocket science here. Algorithmic rocket science. It's mostly integration with well-defined APIs and stuff like this. So yeah, it can be done.
And vibe coding only works well if it's done by developers and by engineers, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yes.
So you shed some light about the background of IT-Conductor and us coming together, creating something that is gonna be long lasting, right? So because I want the solution now, but David goes, I want solution that will last for 20, 30, 50 years. And then we have this argument, who's gonna fund it? Oh, well.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Okay.
That's
who's gonna fund it? Maybe your customer cash flow or whatever. I don't know, or maybe Elon Musk or whoever.
Yeah, so just like that, today I heard Anthropic raised $13 billion and now valued at $183 billion. That's 3 times what they were valued about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So it's mind-boggling. While startups like us, like, hey, I only need not much, $20 million.
Right. Yeah, you can work lean and mean.
But let me tell you something, Fernando. You may not know that, but every week I get. I mean, every day, not every week. Every day I get a lot of solicitation from either private equity or some merger M&A. Yeah, because there's not a lot of companies that have been around like we have, like 10 years or more, with enterprise customers who have, like, shown successes and not already bought by somebody, right? Because I think it's both difficult to build and bootstrap a company as it is to solve real world problem and stay alive and be nimble and all that stuff. So for us, we kind of like, yeah, I don't mind being hungry. Maybe I can get fed every now and then. But the important is, like, we want the product or the solution itself to be like long lasting, that's going to solve issues way into the future, right? And a lot of the guys that come, to be honest, my state, and that's not a podcast I will do, Fernando. This will stir up a big thing with people out there. I think most startup or investor community people, not real investor, they're bankers, because they would only put money in when you already succeeded in building something, having customer, having revenue, and they just want to be a banker. They want to put in, they want a 5x return, whatever. They are not investor. They call it investors. I challenge them to be two investors for startup. And I'm not talking about any business, but for startup to survive, you need the faith of investors to come in and say, this is a truly good platform, and I will invest even if the revenue is not there. Because all of them now, the standard, they approach me and I say, no, I don't want to waste my time talking to you. Because you know what the standard is? They have followed the herd, and they say, we're looking for $5 million ARR, recurring revenue. I'm like, well, if I had 5, I wouldn't even need to talk to you. I would just do everything myself, fund it myself, and grow to a 50, to 100, right? So there's really not a startup investing. That's not investing, right? If we waited for that, we would never be where we are today. We would not have started 11, 10 years ago, right? So not everybody is like VC material or whatever, but we build important things, and I think that the investor community is really not investor; they are bankers. A lot of them hide under the PE or the investor VC, but really they're not. They're just bankers.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, guys, for getting on this fantastic call. It was really good to hear from your perspective, David, about the founding and building for the long term. Building a platform that enable others, in this case initially you, but hopefully others soon with the marketplace, to build apps on top of this that automate the IT management process. So thank you, and we'll talk next time. We'll see you on the next episode of Linh Talks Tech.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.